In this video, I'm going to share some tips and guide about another mobile war game called Mobile Royale. I do explore mobile games too simply because many of us do not get the luxury of being without computer all the time, and so a good mobile game could provide a decent entertainment when that happens. And who's to say that the best game in the world wouldn't be a mobile game? I've covered a different war game before called Rise of Civilization, and there are some minor similarities, but I would say that in Mobile Royale is much more laid back. I personally find it hard to play a game like Rise of Civilization on a phone because of the real-time aspect of the game. But for this, it is not so bad. This game came out to the public slightly more than a week ago, and I have been spending a lot of my time understanding the game. A quick disclaimer that most of the tips and what I'll be sharing is based on what I understand and believe about the game after playing it for about a week. The heart of your city is the castle, and all the other buildings will not be able to level up higher than that of the castle. By leveling up your castle, it could increase deployable heroes and soldiers. It could also increase the army and brigade size limit and allow more guild helps from your guildmates, and to unlock other structures and other contents in the game. In my opinion, some of the more important milestones for the castle is like level 6, where you get to deploy an extra hero and unlock the merchant airship to begin trading. There are other important milestones that you want to get your castle to reach so that other important structures could reach their important milestones, but more on that in just a bit. As mentioned to you that the castle level affects the amount of units you can deploy, which is also known as your army limit. There's one increment at level 5 and another at level 12. Having able to deploy multiple armies means enabling you to do multiple tasks at once. You will want to have at least 3 armies to deploy at any given time. The reason for that is so that you can assign them one for harvesting, one for trading with the airship, and one more for the guild floatress, which we'll be talking about it more later on in the video as well. This simple setup is for the beginning of the game. At later games, you will want your castle to be higher level so you can deploy more armies for harvesting or even for battling. The next important building is the Sage Tower, which is basically like a research center. The higher the level of the Sage Tower, the more types of research will be available to you. For example, you start with the economy research, but at level 5 Sage Tower you will unlock the warfare research, and at level 9 you get the human civilization research, and so on. One of the most important research in this war game is to get higher tier soldiers. You could research rookies, which are tier 2 soldiers at Sage Tower level 9, and at level 17 you can get troopers, which are tier 3 soldiers. There are a lot of other useful research as well. You can increase construction and research speed, harvesting and resource production rate, increase your soldier damage, defense, health, and many more. You should always make sure that you are researching something and that you are not letting your Sage Tower idle by. This is how you can save time and keep your Sage Tower efficient. To me, if you're a heavy pay-to-win player, you can keep the construction, research, training, or anything that shortens time untouched, especially if you can afford the speed-ups and gyms. But for the majority that only plan to spend a little or not at all, you want to focus on your construction and research speed so that you can progress faster with minimum gyms or speed-ups required. The drawback is of course that you will lack in firepower early on, but that is where the 3-day shield come in handy. There is also a 7-day infirmary capacity increase and heal cost reduction, which means you are very unlikely to lose troops even if you are attacked. This logic applies to your own personal talent as well. When you head over to the profile, you'll realize that you have 2 trees of talent to upgrade. One is for the economy and the other one is for the military. You will be given 2 resets if I'm not mistaken, and should spend the talents on the economical side like construction and research first to grow faster. Later on, when you're ready, you can reset and focus more on the military side of things. Next, we're going to talk about the Barracks, which is the place where you train your troops of soldiers depending on what tier of soldiers you have researched. From my observation, the lower tier soldiers, although not as good in battles, but they do travel a lot faster and has lower upkeep. Upkeep is basically the amount of food they will drain from your city for having them. A good thing to note is that if your upkeep ever gets too high and you do not have enough food generated to match your upkeep, your soldiers will not die or leave you. You just find yourself in a situation where you can't get or collect more food, which you may need for building, upgrades, research, etc. With that said, the ratio of upkeep required for the battling power a higher tier soldier gives you is very much worth training them. Always keep the training ground running and try your best to match your upkeep. There are no known ways to change from a tier 1 unit to a tier 2 unit. This means the sooner you get the better research on better tier soldiers, the sooner you'll be actually spending time training the higher tier soldiers instead. Which is why soldier tier research milestones are important to reach as soon as possible. Leveling up the barracks only increases the amount of soldiers you can train at a time, but leveling the castle wall actually increases the rate of training, and at certain levels it also increases the hero's defense when defending the castle. Since lower tier soldiers takes less time to train, like a tier 1 soldier uses half the time to train a tier 2 soldier, and since the max loadout of a tier 1 soldier is half of the tier 2 soldier, using a tier 1 soldier for harvesting purposes doesn't seem so bad, but the total amount of soldiers you can deploy at once is limited depending on various factors like the level of your hero you send with them. On top of that, if there was a huge battle and all of your troops are involved, you wouldn't want your tier 1 soldiers flooding the infirmary, leaving no space for your higher tier soldiers. Speaking of infirmary, the infirmary is like a hospital. When you attack someone strong, some of your soldiers will die, some will get injured. Those injured soldiers will be sent to the infirmary until you decide to spend resources and time to heal them. If you do not heal them, you couldn't use them. If the infirmary is full, and any further injured soldiers will die instead, which is why it's very important to keep the level of your infirmary high and not to overpopulate. This means letting go some of the lower tier units for better ones. In the case of being attacked and defeated by other players, your units will not die but will instead all be sent to the infirmary unless it is full. You can reduce the amount of soldiers defending quickly by putting them in the sanctuary or letting them camp outside the city by using the occupy button. This way you might be able to prevent any unit loss due to a full infirmary. Leveling up the infirmary will increase the capacity to hold more injured units. Before we talk about the next important structure, we need to know about clans. Clans and guilds are two very different things in this game. Guild is a group consisting of other players in which you join to help each other and grow together. A clan in this game is like NPC factions of different races in which you can benefit from their technology, backups, and tradings. The air dock is what you need to undergo those tradings with different clans. The items you get from these tradings can be requirements for multiple things, for example researches, and also as gifts for other clans. There will be a diplomat at your city and you can use those clan traded items there as gifts to increase your relationship with other clans and gain tech benefits. The tech benefits here is basically knowledge of their technology to further improve your own growth. Having good relationship can also improve the daily rewards from these clans and unlock more trading items. However, you will need to do the campaigns at the magic stone thingy to discover and unlock new clans to get all the advantages of said content. The air dock will also have a merchant visiting every 8 hours that in my opinion brings really great deals and you should always try to get them all. Once in a while there will also be a special admin quest that requires you to trade very valuable things that take a very long time to produce from different clans, and if you do them you will get special permanent upgrades. Leveling up the air dock will increase the manufacturing speed for products and quantity. The next important structure is the Arcane Sanctum. It allows you to build runes and display them at your city. Runes provide certain buffs depending on the rune. You unlock different clan runes when you finish each chapter of the campaign, and you unlock monster runes by collecting the required items from different monsters. Displayed runes will have its effects increase and you can switch between them anytime you want. The clan rune buff their individual clan backup soldiers. A backup is a reinforcement you deploy during the battle, and depending on which clan backup you use, they come in different soldier types and abilities. Monster runes basically improves your monster hunting activities. You can click on the runes and read the effects on you and switch them according to your next fight. Leveling the Arcane Sanctum will increase your stamina for hunting monsters and also recovery rate for your stamina. A higher level Arcane Sanctum can also allow you to place more runes, which is 2 runes at level 8 and 3 runes at level 13. You will also need higher level Arcane Sanctum to hit higher level monsters. Okay, I know it's a lot to take in, but I feel like I need to put everything in one video, so let's continue. Now if you have ever played Lord Mobile, they say that one of the most significant differences between that game and this is that this one has a dragon. I wouldn't really know because I never played Lord's Mobile, but speaking of dragons, this is where it brings us to the chapel. It's a place for our dragon in our city, and by collecting certain dragon shards, you can gain new dragon abilities and passive that benefits your city and troops. You can get certain dragon shards from certain elite stages at the campaign. Leveling this structure will allow you to attack higher level villages, and once you have taken hold of that village, it will gain combat buff depending on the level of your chapel. Village comes and go like monsters do. They both have a time limit in the kingdom. If you can occupy 2 villages, they will provide you with a buff that you can activate. Depending on the type of village you capture, the buff varies as well. If any one of your 2 villages is lost, you will lose the buff. Being able to capture a high level village can also be very useful, for it is less likely to be attacked by others, since in a way it filters out all the lower level players that could not capture a high level village yet, since they do not have a high level chapel. And higher level villages are harder to defeat, so players will think twice before attacking. Whenever you find yourself having too much of a certain resource and you could not generate any more due to the storage cap, it is a good idea to send some to your buddies or guildmates if they need it. This is so that you do not lose the potential resources that you could have gotten if you have space. Having too much resources can also make you a target to enemies, making it dangerous for you since you could also lose the resources that you have. The supply post is the place for transferring resources between players. The higher its level, the more you can transfer at a time, and the lesser the tax charge on your transaction, because the virtual logistic company needs to get paid too. They have horses to feed. If you really want to keep resources for future uses, I recommend not exceeding more than how much your vault could protect. The vault is a safe place for your resources. So if let's say it has a capacity of 500k, then no enemies that raided your city can loot more than 500k food, wood or stone. Sadly, gold is not protected unless you could get your vault to level 25, then it would unlock the gold protection. When it comes to getting resources, you can generate all at your city with structures like farm for food, quarry for stone, lumber mill for wood, and manor for gold. There are other ways to get more resources at the city as well. If you have time, you can click on the woodcutters or the fishermen for more wood and food cards. You can also get stone cards from the supply post and also gold cards from the vault. I call them cards because of how they look like to me, and basically you just turn them into resource whenever you want. The training ground also provides military related items like training weapons and alloy piece used for research and gifts. And there's also another structure that doesn't really have a name, but it says sign in bonus, and it generates useful resources and items including speed ups every 5 minutes or so. This benefits active players and reward them for their time in the game, since if you do not claim them, you do not get them. Other ways of getting more resources include attacking other players and loot their cities, or harvesting them from resource posts outside of the city. When you get resource cards, it is a good idea to only use them when you really need it. This is because cards, in a way, they do not exist physically in the game until you exchange them into actual resource, which means enemies cannot take them from you. So it is like having a huge vault resource in the form of cards. The training ground allows you to set up your defenses, so if enemies were to attack you, what kind of setup would you want to fight them with? This includes things like formation, types of soldiers, and heroes. Sadly, I could not show you guys the formation aspect of the game because my level is just not high enough yet to unlock them. The formation basically determines how your troops are aligned initially before the battle, which could make things in your favor if you use it right. Note that you cannot remove the leader hero from your defensive setup, so if you were to hide your hero, let's say in the sanctuary, your defense setup will have one hero short. Upgrading the watchtower allows you to get notifications when enemies are coming and provide you with useful information about that army. The problem here is that I've seen many high level raids. Most people that like attacking others are pay to win players and they have teleports. This means that they will usually teleport nearby you before attacking. When that happens, whatever information given to you about the attacker's army is pretty much useless because you do not have enough time to react to whatever information is there, simply because they only need to march a very short distance to reach you. So it's not really going to help you unless of course it's an attack from a distance or a rally. Rally is a big group of army composed of more than one player's army. The battle hall is a structure that controls the capacity of that rally. Leveling the battle hall will increase the capacity, and so you can host a larger group of armies. To counter a rally, you want to have backups camped in your city. For this, you need the embassy, and leveling the embassy structure up will increase the capacity of the army or troops you can receive from your allies. In case every single member of your guild is busy and you couldn't get help, this is the part where you need to find ways to protect your asset. If resources is not a problem, the next thing that you want to protect is your soldiers and your leader. After reaching level 10 castle, a defeat by an attack from an enemy will capture your leader. I've never gotten my leader captured yet so far, but from what I've heard, you won't be able to use that hero, and until you get it back, your gears, equipped, and player talent will all be disabled. This is actually a very serious issue. If your castle level is 17 and above, enemies that capture your hero can execute them, and the only way to get them back is to revive them with a revival pearl that costs about 1.5k gems or 70k guild coins. So one of the ways that you can protect the leader and the troops is by putting them in the sanctuary. Note that you can't use the troops or hero that is in the sanctuary, and if your city does get attacked, the leader and troops inside will not be able to defend. So since the only thing the enemy can hurt you is on your resource, troops, and leader, if you can find a way to protect them somehow, you shouldn't worry much about getting attacked. But if you're on the other end of things and you want to capture enemy leader, you'll need to have a prison built. The higher the level of the prison, the longer you can keep the enemy's leader. At castle level 17, with the help of an altar, you can execute leaders that you capture who belongs to a player that has a level 17 castle and above. Capturing and executing leader can grant you special buffs for a limited amount of time. Crystals are cash currency the game uses. Players can purchase it and use them in the crystal shop, where you can buy many useful things ranging from resources, speed ups, to chests, and more. Because of this simple fact, the game is actually very pay to win. But with that said, you can still do pretty well if you know what you're doing and play efficiently. In my opinion, even though I did not spend anything on the game, anyone that is serious about it should at least consider making one purchase, even if it's just $1. The reason is because that will unlock a daily interest reward from the Atelier's lab. The way this structure works is like a fixed deposit. You put a certain amount of crystals in and it will return you with interest after a set amount of time. You can do 2 days for 5%, 6 days for 20%, or 30 days for 200% for free. But you must make a single purchase at least to unlock a 1 day 20% interest option. I know for all the maths major freaks out there is like already starting to go wild thinking about how crazy it would be if you were to compound your crystals, but sadly it doesn't work because there is a limit to how much you can put inside at a time. Leveling the Atelier will increase the cap on how much crystals you can put in and also increase the interest rate by a bit. So if you manage to unlock the 1 day 20% interest and you put, let's say, 3000 crystals per day, you will get about 600 crystals daily, and more in the future with a higher level structure. Your personal gear can give you stats as well. You can get them by crafting them at the Smithy. Materials for crafting the gears are usually required from monster hunting. You'll need a basic gear at the start, but in time you want to look at set gears that can shorten construction or research time, or just overall better combat buffs. Currently, I do not know if there's any special effects or bonus stats for having complete unique set. If not, I guess you can really mix things up according to what you need. Remember that you can't equip a gear that is higher level than you. Since crafting gears can take a really long time, you might want to start crafting future gears when there are no gears to upgrade or craft for your current use. The gears you have also have slots where you can put gems to allow you to have even more effects. Each gear will have 4 gem slots, but sadly gems are very hard to get. You can either get it from chest purchase with crystals, which includes legendary gems, or you can get them with guild coins, but only up to rare gems if you're lucky. Another sad aspect on how pay to win this game is. Now let's talk about combat, heroes, and campaign. As mentioned before, you can do your campaigns by clicking on a magic rock. After a chapter or node is complete, you get to do it again with a higher difficulty known as Elite. You'll realize that each different stage in Elite mode gives you unique random rewards, and you want to do them repeatedly based on what you need at the time. For example, because I was rushing this video, I focused on the second stage that provides speed ups as rewards. Most stages also give you hero soulstones to promote your hero. And as far as I can tell, this is the only way you can get soulstones for your heroes without spending crystals. If you manage to get 3 stars on a stage in elite mode, you have the option to rush or quick run the stage without actually sitting through the whole thing. You do get slightly less experience from using the quick run option, but the benefit is that you get your experience in a form of potion, which means that you get to choose who to give it to, and of course you save time. When picking your soldiers, remember that you need at least 2 sets of brigade soldier types for it to activate its special ability. For example, if you have selected 2 infantry, they will have shield wall that increases defense. If you have 2 cavalries, they will have charge that knocks enemies back while doing damage, and if you have 2 archers, they will have barrage, which increases attack speed. Different soldier type has different advantages and disadvantages between each other, and the rules goes like this. Infantry is strong against archers but weak against cavalry. Archers are strong against cavalries but weak against infantry. And finally, cavalries is strong against infantry but weak against archers. Knowing what is the main army type your opponent uses, not only just in campaigns but in fights between players, you can use this information to counter them and gain an advantage. You get clan backups as you unlock relationship with clans each chapter you progress in the campaign, and they are very strong. But something that took me a while to notice is that they seem to charge up when your units take damage or kill. So if you have a full tank and no one is dying, you might not get to summon those backups. This is the same in monster hunting as well. Make sure you read the abilities of those backup units to get a better understanding, so that you can figure out how to position them to make full use of their potential. This is one of the key to progress further in the campaigns while being slightly under level. The dragon helps too in your fights, and depending on which skill you choose for the dragon, you can either buff your heroes or debuff enemies' heroes. I do realize that some of the dragon's ability seems to require a good timing, or else it might miss most of its attack. However, if you want to be safe, the last 2 dragon skills from water and light shards has a very large AoE and doesn't seem to miss. The dragon also helps with your attacks on villagers, but it doesn't seem to come out on fights during monster hunts and player versus player, unless you're the one being attacked at your city. Your heroes is probably one of the major factors in a fight, and besides leveling them up so that you can get better stats, allow them to bring more troops, and also unlock new skills, you can also promote them to increase their stats further, improving both their active and passive skills, and also unlock rune slots. Runes are like gyms, which we talked about, but for heroes. Each hero has 5 slots with different rotations, and only the right rotation runes can go into it. Using similar rune types can unlock a combo that gives you extra effects. For example, my Hawthorne has 2 robust runes equipped, and therefore has a combo bonus of block rate plus 20%. Just like a lot of things, setting up your runes require a good understanding of your hero's strengths and weaknesses. For example, you don't want to equip runes that give you increased block amount when that hero does not even have any block rate at all. Sadly, we do not have enough time to go through all the builds and different setups, but I believe with a little bit of common sense, you'll do just fine. Pretty much every hero has a skin. It not only makes it look different, but also provides one extra passive, which is great, but focusing on upgrading the hero itself seems to be more beneficial, considering that it upgrades everything else and not just one passive like the skin does. One of the basic things to monitor when you're new is the food source, making sure that production could keep up with the upkeep. And the second thing is really time management. I do not expect anyone to be staring at the game the whole day every day, so you might want to sync the construction and research so they can start the next construction and research together at a certain time that you'll be around. Long upgrades and research should be done during work hours or sleep hours, and this applies to training soldiers as well. You'll definitely want to join a guild. The stronger the better. Stronger guilds tend to have more pay to win players and active members. This means that you get a lot of gifts from their successful purchase or monster hunts. Sometimes overnight I can get more than 100 gifts just by being in the guild that I'm in. While being in a guild, all the members could hit the help button to help each other construct, research, and travel faster with the airship. Many activities in a guild, including pushing that help button that we talked about, will generate guild coins for you where you can use to buy a large variety of stuff such as speed ups, teleport, shields, and gyms to name a few. If possible, try becoming a Floatress manager. The Floatress is a floating guild base where you can exchange materials and items for troops or other useful items at the Floatress training ground or craft studio. Having the ability to start the training ground or crafting studio whenever you needed it will greatly favor your growth. I was lucky enough to be appointed as one, and I believe I'm one of the better free-to-play players in the game because of that. I stopped leveling my castle at level 16 because of the fact that at level 17, if enemies were to successfully imprison your leader, they could execute that leader. I'm taking this time to better my forces by maxing other important structures first, like the vault and the infirmary, in case of an attack. Getting to level 17 is very important, and you should definitely rush it if you are ready, for it allows you to unlock Trooper, which is your tier 3 soldiers. However, I'm playing it safe for the sake of this video. Another tip that I will give you guys is to pay attention to the events. There are constant growth events which basically rewards you for certain category of growth. Based on the category at the time, you can start using the speed ups to reach the maximum rewards from those events, which is one of the best ways or time to use your speed ups. Speed ups are cards that reduces the time taken to complete an action, like building or researching. The game is pretty generous with giving out speed ups, and just keeping them will only be a burden since the faster you grow in early games, the more benefits you can get and the faster you will grow over time. There is also VIP benefits. You get VIP points from logging in every day, and sometimes cards as rewards as well. The higher your VIP level is, the more growth benefits you will get. Depending on how pay to win you are, the benefits can be very useful or not useful at all. For example, being able to use more energy rocks per day as one of the VIP benefits doesn't really concern non-pay to win players, because energy rocks is a crystal shop item that replenishes your energy so that you can do more campaigns. If you're not a pay to win player, you're most likely not going to purchase this rock because it costs about 3k crystal each, so you won't be using any at all. The thing I like most about having high VIP level besides the general buff is the fact that you can have more clan gifts and you can end construction, research, or even hero promotion early. Currently I am at VIP 7, so I can take out about 18 minutes of all these actions. Another tip is to pay attention to all the non-allies around you. Figure out who is active and who is not. You can farm on inactive whenever you need quick resources, especially gold, since it is not something that they could vault early on. Something that I like to do is to send multiple armies to raid all the inactive cities. Since their production structures are still active, you should get some loots from each of them. And because they are no longer active and they are raided before, you don't have to worry about losing your troops. With that said, try to let them grow at least to level 10 castle if possible before raiding them. There are many people out there that couldn't stand the defeat and will move on to a different game or a new kingdom. It is like losing a battle by giving up the war, but it does happen. If you manage to let them grow a little bit more, they will have better resource production structures and leaders which you can capture in the future. Under the diplomat, you can switch tech depending on what you need, and the first switch is free. For example, if food is an issue to you, you can, let's say, switch stone tech for food tech. I think that's all that I have time to share. If I keep talking, this video was never gonna get released. Feel free to ask me any questions that you have about this game down in the comments. Any other useful information that I missed out and you feel like you want to share, you can also leave it down in the comments and I'll put it in the description. Do note that I still haven't explored everything yet, being only at castle level 16, and because of the constraint that I have making this video, I had to put in a lot of mostly general sharing about the game and skip some really in-depth details. But with what I did share, you should be able to decide if you like this game and if you want to play it. And if you're already playing it, maybe it will help you manage your game better to overcome those rich pay-to-win players. My objective is to help with what I know so that free-to-play players like myself will have a fighting chance. And if pay-to-win players find this video and uses it to further benefit him and bring terror to everyone else, then I guess I did not really think this through. Before you go, I'd like to thank you for watching. I know this channel is taking a big hit, and if you are someone that found me way back from Warframe and still here watching me, I'd like to reward you if you haven't had my Warframe Glyph yet. Don't tell anyone else, it's just for you. My Discord under the general category will have a contest channel open in which you have to post a picture of your Warframe operator faction and state roughly when you started following me and why. This giveaway will only last for about 3 days after this video is uploaded, so hopefully you are a big enough supporter to watch it before it is too late. That's all for this video. Like, subscribe, and share with your guild members if they are new. I'll see you guys down in the comments. Enjoy yourself, have a pleasant day, bye bye.